Okay, so I think more people will probably join later. I know it's a Saturday, but we are going live. Okay, so we are live now. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our third WellNurse Spotlight. And we have our special guest here today. We have Lyn Toomey. And Debbie is, we are so excited to have Debbie here with us. She is just an amazing pioneer for an advocate for self-care and nursing well-being. So just to tell you all a little bit more about Debbie, Debbie has always dreamed of helping others feel better and live great lives. She considers having health and happiness at work and in life to be the ultimate success. As a nurse of over 30 years, as well as a business owner, mother of young men, and a daughter of aging parents, Debbie understands the struggles that people face daily. She has taken care of thousands of patients with stress-related conditions and has witnessed how these conditions worsen due to a lack of self-awareness, self-kindness, and self-care. So she established the Ultimate Healing Journey, LLC, to help men, women, and children who need gentle reminders and practical skills to feel better so that they can do better. Debbie has taught thousands of people how to use resilience skills to fuel their productivity, performance, and positivity. Debbie is a past board member of the National Speakers Association, New England chapter, and an award-winning member of Toastmasters International. Debbie's book, The Happiness Results, More Time, More Health, More Love, More Success, has helped everyone from high school age students to organizational leaders to live a life of purpose, passion, and positivity. Welcome, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited and honored to be here today.
We are also excited and honored to have you here. And really awesome the work that you've been doing to help support nurses and to help people in general with their journeys in self-care. And we are excited to dive right in and learn more about your work and more about yourself too and your own journey. And, just to get things started, we'd just love to hear more about yourself and your perspective. And, could you tell us a little bit about what drove you to start your own business and, how you got to where you are now?
Okay, well, as mentioned in my bio, I've taken care of lots and lots of patients with stress-related ailments. And myself being a nurse of over 30 years, along the way, not even knowing that I was suffering from stress-related ailments, I started to have neck and shoulder pains, frozen shoulders, low back pain, plantar fasciitis, sciatica, all these different things, insomnia sometimes. Um, a lot of signs and symptoms of stress and burnout and compassion fatigue that I was not even aware of. And so I decided to start learning some skills to help me feel better. And so along the way, it went from being a Reiki practitioner, Reiki master, and then learning about acupressure and studying homeopathy and all these different practices that's considered to be under the realm of complementary alternative practice. And then along the way came positive psychology, the science of happiness, and learning and also opening up a whole new world of multimodal, evidence-based, research-proven techniques that can help support self-care and resilience. So to answer your question in a nutshell, it's because I didn't see anything being offered in a preventative way that is evidence-based, and also because many people are suffering as well as myself and my colleagues. So I saw that there was a big gap. True, it was, the internet was starting to boom along the way, and there were many sprinklings of different types of practices of self-care that would be seen on the internet, but nothing that really made sense and nothing that really felt really grounded for me. So when I started studying about positive psychology, it opened up again a whole new world of, I learned about mindfulness and self-compassion, all these different practices that we typically kind of do. These are qualities that we kind of do, but we were not aware that if we did them consistently, that it would have so many health and wellness benefits.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing about your journey. I'm always curious to see how people came into their own self-care and wellness. And, just like you said, it wasn't really a popular topic back then. And I think even now it's just barely kind of scratching the surface, right? Of what's kind of, what's socially acceptable, what people, I feel like people are still kind of coming into their own when it comes to self-care and wellness. And, with that in mind, I just would love to hear, how do you define self-care and wellness, and what do you do to promote your own personal self-care?
Mm-hmm. Well, self-care is, I was thinking about this morning. How would I define self-care? I think I define it depending on what I need, but definitely it's something that I give to myself purposefully, or have others do it for me purposefully. So it's not just me taking deep breaths. Of course, I take deep breaths, I do my yoga. These are things I could do for myself, but I also love being pampered. I love getting my massages. So one of my self-care practices, especially when I was working at the bedside, was monthly massages. And honestly, that wasn't even frequent enough for me.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
I committed to that. I said, I deserve monthly massages. And oh boy, I look forward to that. And also from time to time, getting my nails done, or going out for high tea with my sisters and my mom, and just different things to kind of help me feel alive, help me feel nourished, help me feel connected, help me feel disconnected from work at the same time. So it could be something expensive, or it could be something not expensive. It could just be walking around my block or going down the beach. So self-care is anything that I do for myself, or I purposefully allow others to do for me to nourish my mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that you bring up a really good point, because I think that when people initially hear the term self-care, they think it's only one thing. They think it's only the deep breaths, like you mentioned. Like they think it's only like, oh, I have to completely clear my mind of all my thoughts, and I have to be very disciplined. And, like that's what I've heard in the past. And I'm sure that there might be that perception that self-care is only one thing. But you're right, it's really a range of things. It's really something that you could do to serve yourself, to serve others, to really help each other, just to kind of, feel kind of lifted up. And you're right, it could be those physical well-being kinds of things, like the massages. I mean, I know I love massages, and if I could get monthly, or like bi-weekly massages, I would totally, or daily, I would totally do that.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, that's the ultimate, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because, self-care is also, it's not just mental wellness, right? It's physical wellness. It's your overall wellness, which I think is also, sometimes could probably take a little bit of a mindset shift to think about self-care as a holistic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is not, this is just, as we mentioned earlier, this kind of topic hasn't really been introduced so much in the healthcare space in the past, I think. I think that when you got started with that work, it was still really new. And I think even now it's still kind of new.
It is. And
yeah.
actually I was, sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I was just doing a program, a workshop for a group of nurses, case managers who serve the disabled. And boy, have they been very, very burnt out, not only to take care of themselves, but also that their clientele, their patients. And so one of them, I was talking about self-care and resilience, which is my favorite topics. And somebody typed in the chat, oh, I've heard that self-care has been termed self-keeping in order to kind of help people embrace the concept even more. And I said, whoa, that's great. That's awesome. I've never heard of it, but that's a great thing. It's a great thing. But it's just, is it it's potato, right? So whatever it is that's going to, or however you want to describe that concept of being kind to yourself, being aware of your needs, and just being able to take care of yourself. So one of the key steps to self-care, if you were to ask me, is self-awareness. You have
Yes.
to, a person needs to know what makes them tick, what triggers them, what traumatizes them, what makes them tired, right? So if a person can be so in tuned, and when I teach mindfulness, I tell them that mindfulness is one of the practices that allows you to be intimate with yourself, because you're able to really understand how, what makes your body move a certain way, what makes you hold your breath, who makes you hold your breath, who makes you take, or what makes you take deep breaths, so what makes you relax, who makes you relax, all these different nuances that can help us be more self-aware. And if we can be the expert of our own bodies and minds and spirits, then the self-care will naturally take care of itself, because our body is meant to be resilient. It's meant to be in harmony. It's meant to be in balance. So if with self-awareness comes the kindness and also the care that it needs in order to balance itself in whatever's going on in that particular moment. And that's why self-care is not just one technique. It's many nuances, multi-level, multimodal techniques that allows the person to do what it needs to do at that very moment in order for them to take the next best step or the next best decision.
Right. Yes, of course. And thank you so much for bringing up the idea of self-awareness. I do think that that's really important. I also think that the idea of self-awareness is not so readily introduced in healthcare, um, especially when you're a nurse, right? And you are going about your work, and you're working hard every day to take care of others. But even self-awareness, just being defined as just being aware of what your own body needs and how your own body feels, I feel like that's not really talked about so much. And for nurses, as nurses are very notorious for putting themselves second, and not putting themselves first. But how have you personally inspired nurses that you've worked with to put themselves first and to take care of their own needs?
That's a good question. So, uh, giving them a sense of a permission to be, and this is a self-compassion practice, is just telling them that it's okay. We will drop the ball. We will scream at our kids sometimes, or be irritable at our husband sometimes, or sometimes we would do all these different things. So giving yourself permission to be human, being self-compassionate, and also allowing yourself to give yourself a break. And what I mean by that is, when I was doing I just finished doing a 2-day self-care and resiliency training for nurses. And one of the key takeaways that one of the nurses loved, she's a nurse, she is an educator, she's a mom, she's just really she's awesome. So she was saying that her self-care has basically fallen off the wayside, because if she doesn't have that 2 hours to do the workout, then she feels like, oh my gosh, I just blew it, and might as well just eat, and then maybe tomorrow I'll be lucky and I'll get my 2 hours. But then when I introduced to her the concept of taking small steps, what does self-care look like today? Does self-care look like a 2-hour practice, or a 2-hour workshop, or a 2-hour workout? Or is self-care going to be maybe a 30-minute stretch? What's going to be okay and doable for you today, so that by the end of the day, you feel like you did serve yourself, you did offer yourself a sense of self-care. So that way you're not being critical of yourself, you're not judging yourself, and you're not punishing yourself for not meeting the health care goals that you are trying to offer yourself. So just small chunks. And that was just it for her. She was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Just, maybe like a 10-minute stretch. That would be good for that for one day, and maybe making it up the next day.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up a lot of really good points just there with, first, empowering the nurses to give themselves permission to feel the way that they're feeling and to really lean into whatever it is that they're encountering at the moment.
Mhm.
Because I think it is really easy for nurses, especially in such a high stress environment, to, feel kind of like guilt or feel a lot of shame if they're not performing or if they're not feeling well or if they're not 1,000% for their colleagues and for their patients all the time,
Mhm.
right? I feel like a lot of that shame is kind of embedded almost in the healthcare system in a way, but just knowing just the fact that you can just know that you could give yourself permission to be okay, like just to be okay with what you're feeling. And I really think that helps a lot. Um, and then just taking those small steps, because lots of nurses and people in healthcare in general, I think, are high achievers, and when they set a goal for themselves, it tends to be like a very like lofty goal. Like, I'm not just going to lose 1 pound, I'm going to lose like 20 pounds, and then I'm going to do this and that, like right before next year or something like that. And I think it really is important to kind of take it down to the basic level of just, what is my self-care practice today, just like you said.
Mhm.
What can I do today that will serve me today, whether that's a 2-minute breathing session or a 2-hour workout, just like you said. Because self-care changes, I mean, how you feel changes every day.
Mhm.
And what might serve you today may not serve you tomorrow, and that's completely okay. You don't always have to stick to this regimen of, like, I have to do this, like, and I have to do this tomorrow, and I have to do this, in order to be well. I think it's a pretty fluid, living and breathing kind of part of everyone's journey.
Mhm. Mhm. I totally agree. I totally agree. I would I purposefully set Sunday as a self-care day. And I would, and this is great to borrow also, if you're, for parents or for anybody who lives with somebody, like claiming a day as your self-care day is important. Is I To me, it's worked. And because I've been saying that for many years now, I would hear my 15-year-old say, oh, I think today's going to be my self-care day. It could be a Saturday or it could be a holiday. It doesn't have to be Sunday, but I would hear him, it would be a part of his vocabulary. It's like, oh, I think today's going to be my self-care day. I said, oh, good for you. Yeah, I think I might join you. But for him to allow that to be a part of his vocabulary and his mindset, and it was funny. I was giving him and another friend a ride to a game, and they were talking, and my son started talking about self-care, and the friend started, saying, oh yeah, that, well, my self-care today would be, I would be just drawing. I'm like, well, that's a cool thing to do. I love drawing too.
Yeah.
And it's as a woman, I'm a mom, as I mentioned. I like to share my practices amongst the people I love, because I want them to see what I'm doing, because I can't keep telling them what to do. I want to be able to model my own talk. I want to walk my own talk. And so when I tell them what I'm doing, they support me, and then in return they start borrowing some of that type of a mindset, which is beautiful to hear them just kind of talk about that, and it kind of come up casually. And that to me is like a gift. That's self-care also for me, because I know that I'm doing something correct or nice for my family.
Yeah, that's extremely important. Even if you're promoting self-care for your own individual self, it really can be contagious. People will catch on to those practices. And if it's something that you continue to do, I mean, others will do that. I know that in clinical settings too, I've seen nurses, like at their lunch break, they would all exercise or like do like a quick 7 minute like stretch or workout, and then everyone else wants to kind of join in. And it's kind of like, if you see someone do it, it also kind of makes them feel like they have the permission, just kind of like what you said before.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really awesome to hear that your family in particular has been so open to that. And when if you see someone doing that, you really kind of think like, oh, maybe I should like do that too, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
I could really see how this is benefiting this person, so I should, do the same probably for
Yeah.
myself.
Exactly. It becomes a culture. So I love how you said that in the workplace. So in the workplace, if a group of people start doing it and it becomes a norm. So with them doing their own practice to take care of themselves, they're creating this healthy vibration within the workplace to make that be acceptable. And can you imagine how it trickles into, better relationship, better team dynamics, better communications, better support, allowing each other to maybe take extra time for themselves, or if somebody has a ill call, making sure that they're okay, not feeling guilty about the ill call, or all these different nuances that can happen just from a culture that has been a positive and healthy culture that's been established, whether at home or in the workplace.
Right. Yes, exactly. And yeah, how different would our culture look if that was
Yeah.
something that every unit did, or every department? I feel like that could these it's really the small actions that can make a big impact, especially when it comes to self-care.
Hmm.
Definitely think that could make a huge difference in healthcare,
Hmm.
for the nurses and then ultimately patients too.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
And I'm wondering, for your own personal journey with self-care or wellness. Actually, could you tell us what was the moment in your personal or professional life that really led you to focus more on helping nurses with self-care?
Mm. It happened about I'd say over a year and a half, or almost 2 years now. Um, I have been doing a lot of programs for children, and then for the aging adults, and then other professionals. Then it occurred to me, almost like a boop, light bulb, boop, boop, boop. You're a nurse. Why don't you serve nurses? Also, I wish I had a light bulb. But yeah, so these are people that I can relate with. I know their language, I know their pain, I have been there. So that's inspired me to include nurses and other healthcare workers in the programs that I offer, because I feel like, especially now with so much stress and burnout and vicarious trauma, all these different um, things that we're all experiencing because of the pandemic. I mean, the stress level was high before the pandemic, and now it's just like, you know, astronomical. So we all need a way to do, serve, care, whatever it is that we need to do, so that we can go home feeling that we did our best, knowing that the best will be different every day, and being okay with that notion. Because, I'm sure many nurses, maybe you, Michael, Kathy, Jillian, you probably have gone home after a hard day's work, feeling like you did not do everything that you wanted to do for everybody the way you wanted it done, because of the high level, the quality of practice that you're used to giving, the time you're usually able to give to your patients, and the care that you normally would give to the patient and their family. We've gone home so many times, I'm sure, I know I have, feeling like, okay, I felt like I ran around in circles the whole 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours, but I felt like I didn't do my best. And I had to, along the way, come to terms to the fact that, okay, I did do my best. My patients were, I met their needs. I was there. I was able to send home the people that were supposed to go home. I was able to comfort and receive the patients I was supposed to be admitting. I was there for my peers who asked for my help. I had to unpack. I had to unpack what I did that day in order to quiet my mind, to convince myself that I did what I could that day. Does that make sense? I hope you could relate to
Oh
what I just
yeah.
said. Otherwise, I'll be the only nurse who's feeling this way.
Oh, no, no. Yeah, you're definitely not the only nurse that feels that way. And I'm sure that, Kathy and Jillian could echo the same thoughts and feelings because I mean it's really hard, um, in the nursing profession, there's just a lot of pressure to constantly perform and if you just kind of did one thing wrong or if there was just like one incident or maybe someone said something or maybe your manager, your colleague or your patient or if you just didn't do something or there's a lot of areas and throughout your 12-hour shift where something could go wrong, I mean easily.
Yeah.
And so that kind of all those little incidents can accumulate and can make you feel like wow, I really didn't do well today, like I don't know what's wrong with me, and kind of go towards this downward spiral of like oh my gosh, like and then constantly kind of thinking those things makes you like want to be like I don't know if I should be a nurse, or it kind of like escalates, I think,
Yep.
to that point that you just feel like you don't want to be in the profession almost, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important to practice these self-care practices as you've mentioned, and to really think to yourself like like maybe this didn't go so well today, but what did go well, you know and it could be kind of back to something like a practice of gratitude, or it could be, I feel like for me, especially during this pandemic, I've been reflecting on gratitude a lot, and it's actually helped me like really get through these challenging moments, but even it's really I think a mindset shift, just in terms of how you perceive yourself and your work, and how it translates to what you're doing in your work. So yeah, I think that's imperative for
Yeah.
nurses.
Definitely, definitely. And I love how you mentioned gratitude because that's one of my practices that I love to practice. And I see it, when I see other people practicing it in so many different ways, it just makes me happy, and gratitude is, you probably know it's more than just saying thanks. It's a science. It's an energy booster. It helps with longevity and immune system. It's, I just love the practice of gratitude. It's been a game changer for me and my family, and also the people that I've in my lives.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And with these practices that you've done too, gratitude's you could do that, might just take like a few minutes daily or whatnot. And for other self-care practices that you do you have any other favorites that you like to do, or what other practices do you find yourself doing more regularly?
I love to do, when I wake up in the morning. Gratitude is the first thing that comes out of my mouth. Being grateful for another day. I'm grateful for my family, and then I go downstairs and I like to do my yin yoga or stuff, some sort of a yoga that allows me to just kind of stretch my body and wake it up and ground it. I love doing the daily energy routine that helps with my balance and also coordination. It also helps run the energy in the right way. And then I love to just kind of look real quickly at something motivational, and then I'm ready. And then, my husband would turn to me and he'd say, okay, you're high maintenance. But I would say to him, yes, I am. But you know what? It's what makes me tick. It what makes me happy. It what makes me love him even more, love other people even more, love myself even more. It helps me just kind of get ready for the day. And
Mhm.
another thing that I like to do is just say, what is the word or words that I want to embody today, and what will that look like at the end of the day. So I do like, a visualization, so that way I know right from the beginning. I put my order in. This is what I want to feel for the rest of the day. This is what I want to look like at the end of the day. This is the feeling state I want to have at the end of the day. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but I let it go to the universe or God. And so, it's just, one of those things that doesn't take that long. It's just whatever word or words, you feel into it and you visualize what you want. And that's what, you be grateful for what you get.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing your routine. I personally really like your morning ritual. It sounds really nice. I really like it. Yeah, and I was wondering too, if I think a lot of people in general are new to doing these practices and kind of spending the time on themselves, just like a little part of their day. But what would you recommend to someone who's newer to these practices to just get started? Because I feel like oftentimes just getting started is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Or I think for others the harder part too is continuing to do these practices. But any recommendations that you would have for people who are newer to these practices and have challenges with continuing to do them?
Sure. So that's a great question. So anytime you want to create positive habits, it's always best to add it or associate it with a current routine. So one of the best ways that I started practicing yoga was I would, so that I don't forget to practice it, I would put my yoga pants right next to my side of the bed. So that way, when I would get up, that would be the first thing that I would see. And it would remind me to, oh, okay, I'm going to put on these pants because I promised myself I'm going to go and practice yoga. And then when I go downstairs, I have my yoga mat waiting for me. So as you see, I'm setting myself up for success along the way. And, for me to put my yoga pants in my line of vision when I get out of bed, I don't have to look for my pants, my yoga pants. It's already there. And when I go downstairs, I don't have to look for my yoga mat. It's already downstairs. So it's almost just me following the dot that I created for myself. Boom, 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 boom. That way.
I love that.
So that way I will just kind of follow my lead. And then the more I do that, and the more I did that, the more it became a routine. So I've been doing yoga now for 5 years. And if I don't do it, I feel off. Or, when I don't have the time, like the 30 or 45 minutes to do yoga in the morning because I have to rush off and, go and do something, I would wake up maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes early and just do some dedicated stretches. So that way for me, that's my yoga that morning. I didn't feel like I cheated myself. So again, it's just all these different things, different ways for me to befriend myself in a mindful way and still be in alignment to the self-care that I am trying to give to myself. Knowing that just like our best is different every day, our self-care may be different, and it is different every day.
And I really like how you mentioned that in order to promote these continuous or these regular self-care practices, it's really also making sure you set yourself up for success. Having the yoga clothes by your nightstand when you wake up, and you just kind of see it, and then your body will really just do the rest. Almost just kind of like you said, it'll like, oh, okay, I guess I'll put my yoga clothes on, and like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go get my mat, and like, oh, here it is, and okay, I guess I'll just do the stretches now. And I think that's so important, right? Because we live in systems and we live in routines, and the more that we kind of normalize it and just make sure that it's part of our daily routine, just like you said, like tack it on to an existing routine, the easier it will be to overcome a new habit, because it is a habit that we're trying to build. Even though it's kind of like, I mean, it's a necessity. It's kind of like exercising, right? Like I think people may think that if you just do like one meditation, you should be set for like the rest of like your life or something. But it's really like it's just like exercising. You have to keep on flexing those muscles and continue to do those as part of your routine.
Yep. Yeah, I like to tell people, yeah, just like eating one bowl of salad, it's not going to make you fit into that nice, beautiful dress for that wedding. You got to keep watching what you're eating.
It won't, Debbie.
Well, didn't work for me.
That's so funny. And we do have a question in the chat. Do you see a connection between spiritual self-care and compassion satisfaction?
Yes, definitely. It's I believe so. I believe so, because that's, it's us getting deeper. So some people might, confuse the religion and spirituality and all that. But for me, there's a lot of levels to spirituality. And so if you could equate spiritual care with self-compassion, it kind of lends itself to not only caring for others, but allowing yourself to be a part of that and allowing yourself to be a recipient. Because if we see ourselves as part of this whole diverse and beautiful energy system of the universe, then we are part of that energy exchange. We're not just, as nurses, we give, we do, we care, we do all these things for others. But if you think of the realm of the spiritual care, there's that receiving as well. So I'm not sure if I answered the question correctly, but from my experience is, it's almost like when you're asking, if you're praying for something, and if you're always praying, that's good. But there's a level where you have to open your hands so that you're ready to receive. Because if we just keep our hands so tight and we feel like nothing's going to happen, we just got to pray extra hard. We got to pray extra hard for something to happen. But what if the universe has been giving us all these answers and different nuances, and maybe, we're not catching them, we're not seeing them, so has to be this exchange. And likewise, when we are caring for others and being compassionate towards others, in under the umbrella of spirituality and you give and take energy, it's good for us, and it's good, and also our right to receive that compassion ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I think self-care and compassion it's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
You do give, but you also have almost an obligation to receive and to kind of let things, if there are opportunities to help you with that, it's all kind of related. So, so on the one hand, giving compassion, giving self-care, but then receiving that too, and just being okay with that. And I do think that it all kind of works out together in just kind of one unified way.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's that. Mm-hmm.
And just bringing awareness to, also as nurses, that it's part of the code of ethics for us to also receive care. And it's part of the mandate that we take care of ourselves. Even the nurse caring theory with Gene Watson's, it's part of in order for us to be able to fully care for our patients, we need to know ourselves, take care of ourselves, so that when we are there for our patients, we're so in tune with their needs, we're able to relate to them and be able to offer them what they need at the particular moment, so that we're not seeing patients after patients, giving them basically the same cookie cutter care. If we are able to be in tune to their needs by being in tune to who we are, then we're able to give them the type of care that they need at that very moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And when it comes to the healthcare industry, I feel like it can be really hard to, have that kind of two-way street to really kind of give and receive. And that kind of brings me to healthcare culture. Because with healthcare culture, I feel like there could be a lot of stigmas of, like you always have to give and you can't receive and return.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the healthcare culture and how it relates to wellness and resilience and self care for nurses, what have you found to personally be the most challenging part of that? Changing the healthcare industry's culture just so that it is more accepting and allowing of nurses to take care of themselves.
I think it's the silos. Um, Many hospitals say, "Oh, we're offering this wellness program," but more attention is being given to maybe just nurses, or maybe more attentions are given towards the doctors. It's just there's no cohesion. It's just very siloed, and that's very frustrating because the intention is pure, the intention is right, but it's just, why can't the whole organization be on the same page so that some one department, one specialty is not redoing the wheel, not recreating the wheel? So I believe that that is one of the biggest struggle, because right now, amazingly enough, and thank goodness, healthcare is seeing the need for healthcare professionals to receive health and wellness care, or
Right.
these tips, right? And that's why all of us are emerging, right? Which is wonderful. But at the same time, there needs to be one message, one system across the board, so that everybody is on the same page, speaking the same language, supporting each other the way they were or expected they're expected to be taught, or they're expected to act in that particular organization. Having one training from housekeeping all the way up to the C-suite, everybody taking the same training, so that way everybody's on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be organization wide. A shift with mindset will take the whole organization if you really want to
Yeah.
see the whole staff thrive. And I do think that what you mentioned about silos is really important because, if you are only focusing on one subset of healthcare professionals and only their wellness and kind of like not really focusing on the others, it could be challenging, right? I mean, you do want to make sure that the organization on a whole, as a whole, has that same message for promoting self-care for all of the people in their organization.
Yeah.
Um, and just because of the disconnect of healthcare, right? It could be really challenging. I mean, what one group is doing, the others may not be doing, and then it just is so disjointed that it's kind of hard to have that cultural shift.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so definitely could see that as being a really big challenge in healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have another question in the chat, and the question is asking, what is the best system-wide self-care initiative that you have been involved in or have seen implemented, and why do you think that it did or did not succeed?
That's a good question. So I have I was a part of the integrative wellness group before COVID, and that was just starting to take off. We had a CEO who was very supportive. He would, join, when I would do the Mindful Mondays, he would be one of my participants. And he would be there every time we would offer this, hospital wide, just tables like full of goodies for the employees. So that was taking off. And then COVID happens, and then so things kind of fell over to the wayside. But I'm starting to, and I would like to um, start a trauma informed care practice or program. that is something that I'm passionate about, and definitely something that is starting to emerge as something that's very important for all organizations to get training in. And this is a top down, bottom up, lateral, everybody learning about different ways that trauma can impact the way we relate to ourselves and also to others. So that's something that I want to be a part of. And I have done programs and will hope to do more in the coming year. So that's something to be on the lookout.
That's
I
great.
really do believe in the trauma informed care practice. Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm not sure if, just for those who may not be familiar with that.
Yeah, sure. So it actually it came about from the study of the ACE studies, the adverse childhood experiences done by the CDC and also the Kaiser Permanente group, and they basically have found that children who have suffered trauma, how it really impacts the way their brain develops and also their choices and their lifestyle in the future. And so they have basically have done some trainings that to bring awareness to people, especially who are in that field of behavioral health medicine practice. They've taught them different ways to support these group of people. And since then, they have also they've started opening up to the non-behavioral healthcare systems and teaching them or informing them that it's important to learn about a way to take care of people who have experienced trauma. Because what happens is some people who experience trauma know that they've experienced trauma, but other people, especially if it's happened in their early childhood, they don't really necessarily realize that they've experienced trauma. So they may not be getting any type of mental health treatments per se. They may have fallen through the cracks. And what happens as they get older, they end up in the healthcare, some sort of a healthcare institution for some sort of medical needs. And research have shown that these people with adverse life experiences with ACEs, they seek medical attention more frequently. They may not be compliant with their medications, or they have, some sort of discomfort or complaints that are common for people who have experienced trauma in their younger lives. So it's something that's being promoted even more to offer to many organizations. And it's not just for healthcare organizations. I've seen it being offered in the educational system. So many, any organization where people will be attending, because it's important for those people in the professional realm or in a leadership role, whether it's teachers, nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, clergymen, police officers. It's important for them to learn the trauma-informed care approach so that when they are in front of somebody who might be triggered or re-traumatized, it's good for them to know how to keep that person feeling safe. I hope I answered your question.
Oh no, yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for telling us more information about the program, and really excited to hear about the work that you're doing in that. And I know, especially after all the challenges this year, I'm sure that type of work is going to be more important than ever in the coming, really decades, honestly. There's been a lot of, traumas this year for various reasons. So I'm really glad to hear that you're going to be working on that. And I really look forward to learning more once that work is out and implemented. So thank you so much for your work on that.
Sure. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of course. Happy to. And with with what we're doing at WellNurse, we're trying to start our own, our own kind of company to help with nursing well-being, and so we are going down this path of starting our own business. And as someone who's a business owner and has been doing this for a while now, what would you say is your biggest lesson learned from starting your own business, especially in this type of industry?
I feel it's very important to have mentors.
Mhm.
I have, being a part of CIPP, I've had great mentors. And also being a part of a National Speaker Association, I have a mentor. At the hospital where I work in, I have mentors. So having different mentors to help you along the way is so important. Um, and WellNurse, you have a group of amazing talent within you, all of you all having your own creativity, your own level of knowledge and strengths and talents. That's amazing because you have your core group. So that's a wonderful thing. But definitely just being in the know and just testing out different platforms. Don't be afraid to fail because that's all part of success, right? I've certainly have tried many different things, and that's just part of my personality. I get curious and I just want to try it. And I always tell myself, if it did not fail, it doesn't mean that I was bad. It just means that, okay, I won't go that way. I'll just try another direction. But
Mhm.
it's part of my level. It's a part of how I can become an expert at something, is by knowing what didn't work and also what works. So that way I can best, coach somebody or mentor somebody if they should ask me, a question that relates to that. But definitely hang around with the people who is going to support your dream, and just keep on, as a group, meeting and supporting each other, and just know what's out there. Know what's out there.
Hmm. Yes, thank you so much. It's so inspiring to see other nurses who have become business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators, and have really built their profession into that too. So I think that the work that you've done is just especially inspiring, like just, you're really helping to break down all these barriers and helping to inspire a lot of nurses and a lot of people to, think about the best for themselves. And so I think that's really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm. And, I know that we have a few minutes left, but I wanted to take this time, if anyone, just to tell those who are on the call, if anyone has questions that they want to ask Debbie, please feel free to put it in the chat. We still have a few more minutes left, but let me see here. There is a conversation. Let's see. Yeah, so just a comment. One of the nurses on this call is working to help nurses cope with anxiety, and he's an Army veteran and ED nurse on the front lines. So he's just saying, I hope there'll be more help for us as we endure and cope with an ongoing pandemic.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Well, there's a lot of wonderful, generous organizations out there that's there to support nurses. And what I could tell you is, and I do this practice, emotional freedom technique, tapping solution. They have a special going on for, and I'm not getting any money from them, but uh, it's emotional freedom technique has been researched. And as a veteran, they've done lots of research with veterans, and shown that it's really effective for depression and panic attacks and pain. So, I would, definitely, steer you to that. There's a lot of different programs on YouTube on EFT, that's the emotional freedom technique, or tapping. But definitely, look and see what other organizations are offering many free things for healthcare providers, because it's very important.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, there's a lot of practices. It sounds like for self care, and I know that you're well versed in a lot of them too. So it's great to hear about the different options. I'm not as familiar with EFT, so that's something I've always been kind of curious about too. Um, and is there any lessons that you would like to share, just in terms of what you've learned about nurses and their well being? or any other thoughts that you'd like to share with the group?
So for nurses, as far as well-being, my suggestion is just keep doing what makes you happy. But um, and be aware of some of the habits that's going to lead to poor health. I used to do a lot of E12, 11 to 11:30, and that when I would get home by midnight, I would just mindlessly eat. And then it's like, okay, I'm still kind of revved up. I think I'm going to have some wine. And, so that after a few months, that translates into 10 pounds or 20 pounds, so being mindful of the mindless activities that you do to help soothe your stress or your inner spirit is very important. Again, be attuned to who you are. And then for an advice for nurses who want to be who want to start their own business, I suggest starting and to remove the word just a nurse or the words just a nurse, because that can really trip you up. I still catch myself saying, but I'm just a nurse. I'm like, nope. I'm a nurse and I can do this. So it's just, we have to reframe and we have to be able to kind of step into this leadership role that is actually being established for us at this time. As we speak, all nurses, whether you're a new grad or not, guess what? You are considered a healthcare leader from here on forward because of the level of responsibility and attention that we have been given. And it's something that's really amazing and awesome. So it's something that I'm getting tingly. It's our rights, and we need to be able to now then be versed in so many different practices out there, so that when we are called to be a part of the table to make decision making, we are able to give the best decision that's going to support not just our profession, but the whole healthcare organization, to break down those silos so that we are taking care of everybody, including ourselves.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is really difficult. I mean, I think it could be easy to fall into that trap of, I guess mindlessness, right, instead of mindfulness, and just kind of you could be on autopilot and just not even be aware that you're just kind of eating things and not really having boundaries on that, or drinking and not having boundaries on that. Which after a long shift, I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of, I guess, let yourself go in a sense, right? But yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think it's really important for people to really kind of have that self-awareness and just really think, like, what am I doing right now, and how much am I really kind of taking in? So I think that that's especially important to be aware of. And I think, just one last comment here in the chat. I think oftentimes nurses can find that it's hard to seek help too, just from providers, or just trying to seek help from professionals who could help them if they are feeling like they need help with their mental health and wellness. Any thoughts on that? Like, when should a nurse go and see a primary care provider, or when should they kind of seek more help if they are feeling kind of, or I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, it's just, it depends on the nurse. Some nurses are just hardcore. I'm just going to work through it. I'm going to pop those Motrins and I'm just going to work through it. I'm going to pop those Prilosec. I'm okay. So being aware and not feeling like you have to kind of put on this armor to do join the fight, because there's no fight. So it's all about care. It's all about care. If we kind of chunk up and think about what we're doing, we're trying to help people feel better, and we need to just allow ourselves to be a part of that mix. So as we care for others, we have to take care of ourselves, because it's this generative system that can really happen really, really well. So for nurses, what can they do? Be aware, and also give yourself permission to break down, but give yourself permission to cry. Give yourself if you are feeling low and depressed one day, it's okay. everybody feels that way. Everybody gets a low, they feel low, and you feel that, let all the tears run, eat the Cheerios, whatever it is, whatever it is that you typically eat, and just know that tomorrow's the next is another day, and maybe talk to somebody who can listen to you. It may not be a professional, but maybe a trusted someone. But if you feel like you need more attention, maybe some sort of a treatment that's going to help support you during this time, it's okay. Everybody needs help, and that could mean so many different variation at different times, different help. It's all going to be different, but don't let the stigma of mental health really ruin you, because again, they're all here for us, and mental health is so important, always, as we all know, because it can really impact the other health, the physical and emotional and spiritual health, financial health.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's definitely wellness is holistic. I mean, and it really weaves into each other. I mean, you can't really have one without the other. So I really love that you mentioned that. And it really just takes the individual to understand who they are, how they're feeling, what they do need individually, to kind of figure out too what they should do in their journey for wellness and what resonates with them. Because I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and not everything may resonate with you, but you definitely can explore that and see what works well for you. In this ongoing journey, there's it's really a lifelong journey and experience. And we have reached the end of the hour. I can't believe it's already been an hour since we started the conversation.
Wow, that flew by.
Yeah, I know, it flew by, and it was just so engaging to talk with you and to learn about you, your experience, your work, and your own journey with self-care. And I just want to say thank you so much for meeting with us today, and for giving us, sharing your wisdom, and telling us more about what you do and how you help nurses and how you help others. So thank you so much, and really appreciate your time. Any last words you want to mention, or?
I just want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me to be here today. And also just remember that self-care is not only is it multimodal, but it changes as we get older. What was good for you when you were younger may not be as good for you now, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing else that's good for you. So be open to other modalities that's going to help you. Keep trying, keep the ones that worked really well, toss the ones that didn't, but just keep trying and explore, because in that exploration is growth and also some fun too. So take care of yourselves, and just know that every day is going to be a new day, and your best is going to be different, and self-care is going to be different as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Debbie. And thank you all so much for joining us. It was a great conversation. You can find this recording on Facebook, on our WellNurse Facebook page. And we will have plenty more WellNurse spotlights in the future, so stay tuned. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you all tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Until next time.